Some houses are haunted because of the dead. But this house was haunted because of the truth. Evelyn Hart was 27 when she returned to the town she once called home, a small New England village wrapped in fog, where winters felt too long and neighbours knew too much. She had spent nearly a decade in therapy, trying to bury the memory of her mother's disappearance. Everyone told her the same story. Her mother went out during a storm and never came back. A tragic accident, a mystery nobody could solve. But Evelyn remembered something different, something she was never allowed to speak of, a voice, calling her name from the hallway. Her mother screaming for help, and a tall figure in the dark. She never should have remembered that. Scene 1. Returning home, the old house stood silent under bending pine trees. The windows were clouded, like blind eyes that had been crying for years. Evelyn's aunt had warned her, do not stay there overnight. That house remembers, but grief is a compass. It always points us back to what hurts most. Inside, the house smelled of cedar and dust. The wallpaper peeled like old skin, and the air felt aware. Every step she took sounded like someone else was walking with her. Like the house was breathing. On the kitchen counter, she found it, her mother's locket, the one she was buried without. Inside was a photo, her mother smiling, her arms around another child. A little girl, but it wasn't Evelyn. I hadn't seen the town in nearly 10 years, but the road leading to it felt unchanged, like the asphalt itself remembered me. The highway narrowed into a 2-lane stretch of cracked blacktop, winding through forests that felt too dense, too quiet, like they were listening more than growing. The leaves were the colour of dying embers, but nothing about them felt warm. The cold wind pushed them across the road in slow, dragging patterns, like something crawling back to where it came from. The sign at the town border still leaned at the same angle as it did when I was a child. Welcome to Pine Hollow, a town where no one ever smiled in photographs. The houses here were old, Victorian, wooden, fragile, and the kind of fragile that didn't break, the kind that endured. Not because it was strong, but because something wouldn't let it die. The people had that same look in their eyes, a stillness, a knowing, like every one of them carried a memory they wished they could forget. Some towns age with time, Pinhello aged with grief. I parked outside the old convenience store near the square. The windows had yellowed newspaper taped across them. The bell above the door jingled when I stepped inside, and the sound echoed too loudly, as though the store had been waiting for that sound for years. The same clerk stood behind the counter, same beard, same cracked glasses, but his face stiffened when he saw me, like someone seeing a ghost. He said, almost choking on the name. I didn't expect anyone to remember me, yet somehow they all had, or rather, they had never stopped. I forced a small smile. It's been a long time. He didn't smile back, didn't blink. You shouldn't have come back, he whispered, no warmth. No anger, just fear. Not of me being hurt. The air inside the store felt suddenly heavier, like it settled inside my lungs. I just came to settle things, I said. I'm staying at the house. He shook his head slowly. The house doesn't like being remembered. There was silence. A silence that felt like a warning. Outside, the sky had turned an ugly grey, though no storm had been forecasted. The clouds over Pine Hollow always moved wrong, too slow, too low, like they were waiting for something to happen. And as I drove toward the house on the hill, the one I once called home, my chest tightened with a memory I didn't want, my mother's voice screaming my name, not in fear, not in anger, but in pleading, begging, like she was trying to stop something. And that something was me. The house stood at the end of the gravel road, just as I remembered it, yet somehow smaller, like time had been feeding on it quietly. The pine trees surrounding it leaned inward, their branches clawing the siding like they were trying to hold it in place, refusing to let it escape whatever fate it carried. The porch steps groaned when I placed my weight onto them. Not the ordinary creak of old wood, but a drawn-out exhale, as if something inside the house had been holding its breath until the moment I returned. The front door was still that faded shade of deep sea green, chipped from years of harsh winters. A colour my mother once said reminded her of drowning wine. I don't know why she chose to say it like that, or why I remembered that specific phrasing now so clearly. I turned the knob slowly. It wasn't locked. It should have been locked. The door swung inward, and the first thing that hit me was the smell. Not rot, not mould, but something far more intimate. Cedar, warm dust, and lavender soap. My mother's scent, still lingering in the air, like she had just walked out of the room moments before I arrived. The house shouldn't have smelled. Lived in. Smelled. Sunlight filtered in through heavy curtains, casting long, slanted beams across the floor. Dust floated within them, moving lazily, like snow trapped in slow motion. Every corner of the house felt frozen in the precise moment she vanished. A mug was still on the kitchen counter. A coat still hung on the back of a chair. A book lay open on the coffee table, its page marked by a delicate white feather. Time hadn't passed here. It had waited. My footsteps echoed more than they should have. The floorboards had a hollow tone underneath, like there were empty spaces where there shouldn't be. The silence didn't feel like nothingness. It felt populated, like there were eyes in the walls, tracking each movement. I stepped into the kitchen and saw it, the locket. It sat in the exact center of the counter, placed with intention. It didn't look dusty. It didn't look neglected. It looked like someone had set it there for me to find. As if they knew, down to the second, when I would return. My throat tightened. I reached for it slowly, like touching it too quickly might shatter the memory inside. When I opened it, the hinges did not even squeak. Inside was my mother, smiling, holding that little girl, the girl who wasn't me. My pulse hammered in my ears, drowning out the silence. For a moment, I felt dizzy, like the house was tilting sideways. Or maybe I was. Because this wasn't just nostalgia. This wasn't just grief. It felt like the house was introducing itself to me again. Or worse, like it had never stopped waiting for me to come home. Night crept into the house, the way cold creeps beneath a door. Slow, subtle, until it's everywhere at once. The sunlight dimmed, but the shadows didn't fall naturally. They stretched, like they were reaching across the walls to pull the rooms darker than evening should allow. I didn't turn on the lights at first. Some part of me didn't want electricity breaking the illusion that time had actually passed. But soon, the silence began to feel too deep, like the house was listening for something, listening for me. So I switched on the lamp in the living room. The light didn't comfort the space. It just made the darkness beyond it feel thicker, like something was waiting just outside the glow. The warm golden hue flickered once, twice, and then steadied, though not in a way that felt reassuring. It felt like someone holding their breath so they wouldn't be seen. I walked down the hallway, my fingertips grazing the wallpaper. The pattern was familiar, deep green vines curling around faded yellow roses, but my fingers caught on something. Tiny gouges along the wall, not scratches, nail marks. Like someone had dragged their hands along the wall while being pulled away. But I told myself it was old. Just age, just time, just something explainable. The house creaked loudly above me. A single step, then another. Someone was upstairs. I froze. The human brain is strange. When confronted with the impossible, it first seeks the familiar. An animal, a window open, settling wood, anything normal. But before I could convince myself, I heard it. My name, soft, broken, a whisper stretched thin. Evelyn. The voice was unmistakable. My mother's. Except, her voice wasn't coming from upstairs. It was coming from the hallway behind me. My breath stopped. I didn't turn around, couldn't. Something primal in my bones screamed that if I turned, I would see something I wasn't meant to see. The air thickened, humid and cold at the same time, like breathing through wet cloth. My heart wasn't beating fast. It was beating hard, like it was trying to fight its way out of my chest. Evelyn, This time, the voice sounded closer. Wet. Like it was being spoken through soil and water and grief. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The locket lay heavy in my pocket, suddenly warm, burning. I felt it pulse as if something inside it was alive. The house made another sound, a slow, dragging motion, like something heavy was pulling itself across the floor upstairs. Not walking, crawling. Something was awake now, not because I returned, but because I remembered. The house had not been waiting for me. It had been waiting for me to remember enough to hear it. Night in the house did not feel like night anywhere else. There was no peace, no settling into stillness. The darkness here felt aware, like it had been waiting behind the walls and under the floorboards for years, waiting for the moment I would walk these rooms again. It started with the sound, not loud, not obvious. A soft tapping, like a fingertip pressing repeatedly on wood, rhythmic, slow. Coming from beneath the floor, I told myself it was pipes, old heating ducts, but then it said my name. Evelyn. Not like a whisper carried by wind, but like someone speaking through the floor, mouth pressed against the boards, my blood ran cold, my skin tightened. My body knew before my mind understood. This voice was not outside me. It was inside the house. I moved carefully, each footstep a negotiation with my own fear. The basement door stood at the end of the hallway, closed, silent. But the closer I got, the more the air thickened. Heavy, damp, like walking into a room that hadn't been opened in years. The tapping stopped, and then I heard crawling, slow, dragging, hands pulling against concrete. Not footsteps, not walking, crawling. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. The metal was warm, like a hand had just released it. I opened the door. The darkness below was so complete, it felt like a shape, like something waiting to swallow light. The old wooden stairs creaked under my weight as I descended. I didn't call out. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. Halfway down, I smelled it. That unmistakable scent of old iron and fading life. Blood. At the bottom, the faint glow of the house's emergency bulb flickered on, buzzed weakly, and stayed lit, casting everything in a sickly dying yellow. The walls were covered in scratches. Not random, not chaotic. Words. Scratched over and over, deep into the plaster. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. And below those, one message carved deeper than all the rest, cutting into the cement I never left. My breath trembled. The house pulsed, and the crawling sound stopped. Right behind me. I didn't turn around. Something in the air pressed against my back. Too close, too real, too alive. A voice, wet and broken, spoke just beside my ear. Come find me. Not a threat, not a command, a plea. My mother's voice, or something wearing what was left of it. The basement remained silent afterward. But silence was worse, because silence meant it was waiting for me to decide. So if a voice called your name from the dark, soft, familiar, begging you to come closer,